Hey, good morning. It's awesome to be here in Texas. Thank you to the brave ones who brave the slight dusting and ice. I'm sorry, I'm from Virginia. We have 6 inches of snow right now, but it's okay because I love Texas. Anybody in here love Texas? Okay. Well, it's great to be here. Thank you, Trinity, for allowing me to share, and for her. I was here last year, actually, to speak at the gala, and you didn't hate me, so you asked me to come back, so it's good. Oh, please be seated. I didn't realize. It is awesome to be able to talk about life, not just because of Sanctity of Life Sunday or Sanctity of Life Month, but it's awesome to talk about the reason why we're here and who created us and why he created us the way he did. In fact, it's the reason why my wife and I started the Radiance Foundation years ago. We wanted to do 3 what we thought were simple things. And we thought because of our personal stories that everybody would love us, that mainstream media would love us, and they would tell these stories, our stories of transformation, stories of adoption, and it didn't quite, it didn't quite roll out that way at all. But we started the Radiance Foundation to do 3 things: to illuminate, educate, and motivate. We want to illuminate the truth that every human life, every one of you, have God-given purpose. Whether you're planned, unplanned, able, disabled, whatever the beautiful hue of your skin is, every human life is God-given purpose. Amen? And then we wanted to educate people about all the easy topics, abortion, racism, fatherlessness, poverty, adoption, gender confusion, free speech, religious liberty, basically the war on common sense. How many of you guys know that there is a war being waged right now on common sense? If I see one more thing about men getting pregnant. In fact, I was just in a public school in DC, and they had, items in the guys' bathroom that guys can't use. Common sense, people. And we're actually based in Virginia, in Loudoun County, Virginia, where it's kind of like the ground zero for school boards gone wild. And it's an incredibly ridiculous fight. But I think too often the church either dismisses things or just is not aware of what's going on. And we're the ones who have the truth that sets people free. And so we not only want to illuminate, not only want to educate, we want to motivate. How many of you are good at motivating people? 2 people and 1 hand clap. It's kind of depressing. I mean, you're obviously motivated to come here today, so you should probably give yourselves a hand clap for that, because it was a little treacherous. But what good is our faith? What good is our knowledge if we don't put it into action? And so we try to do that through the Radiance Foundation. We work with pregnancy centers like For Her all across the country. There are 3,000 pregnancy centers and medical clinics across the country that love mothers and fathers and the children born and unborn, and we're honored to work with them. You can see here, this is some of the content that we create, Radiance.life. I used to be a creative director, and I used to work in the ad agency world for years. I love creating stuff that's fearless, factual, and freeing. And my wife was a teacher for both public and private schools, worked in that arena for about 13 years. Her last 3 years were in Philly. And now she's a homeschooling mama and longs for the riot lockdowns in Philly, because sometimes that was easier than homeschooling. But we want to create stuff to equip Christians especially to engage the world that's out there screaming a lie, and too often we're the ones being silent. And yet we have the answer. And so some of our content includes billboard campaigns. In fact, when we first started Radiance Foundation, we decided that we were going to take 2 of the easiest topics possible, race and abortion, and combine them in Atlanta. And we launched a billboard campaign exposing Planned Parenthood's past and present racism, talking about how in the Black community, abortion, actually in New York City, for instance, more Black babies are aborted than born alive. This is the city that headquarters Planned Parenthood, and it's by historic and intentional design. So we placed these billboards, Black Children and Endangered Species. That was our first billboard campaign in Atlanta and Los Angeles. And we were denounced by the ACLU, denounced by Planned Parenthood. I mean, if you're denounced by those 2 organizations, you're probably doing something right, I'm just saying. But then we were denounced by the NAACP, which I grew up loving and revering for so many reasons. Brown v. Board of Education just being one of the historic landmark cases. And I thought, how are they denouncing our campaign? They said this billboard campaign was horribly racist, that it gave the false impression that Planned Parenthood kills Black babies. Planned Parenthood kills Black babies, white babies, and every hue in between. 380,000 last year. And so, being the factivist that I am, I wrote an op-ed. I wrote a national article about it, and I called out the NAACP, calling out the radical pro-abortion position. And so I gave the title to the article, The National Association for the Abortion of Colored People. Yeah, they didn't like it either. So they sued me. I just think it's funny, you sued a brown guy for exercising one of my most basic civil rights, free speech. They sued me, they sued the Radiance Foundation, 2 years in federal court. And one of the craziest things was that the judge was a lifetime member of the NAACP, and his sister-in-law was a former NAACP Legal Defense Fund president, but he didn't recuse himself. And so I'm sitting in that witness stand, terrified, because I'm thinking, one, we're gonna be bankrupt. We think we had $800 to our name at the time. And I'm thinking, this is insane. How am I here? And the judge, part of why we were sued was because they said that we were confusing the public as to what NAACP stood for. They called it trademark confusion. Well, the judge kept calling them the NCAA the whole trial. And I'm like, why don't you stand over here? It's crazy. I will say that thanks to God and the Alliance Defending Freedom, we won that landmark free speech case against the NAACP. So when the world tries to back you in the corner and tells you to shut your mouth and tells you to be quiet, or guys, when they try to gender shame you into silence about abortion, speak up. And so we do this through our books, Not Equal Civil Rights Gone Wrong, Pro-Life Kids, so we can teach kids an age-appropriate pro-life worldview. Look, kids are naturally pro-life. You actually have to teach them that it's okay to exploit women and profit from their fear. You have to teach them that it's okay to actually harm and kill innocent human life. That doesn't come natural to children. And so this book reinforces that. And also I mentioned that we're in Loudoun County, Virginia with all kinds of crazy gender policies. So we decided to come up with a book in rhyme and beautifully illustrated. And these are our two books to answer the cultural confusion. She is she, and he is he. Yes, that's who would have thought 2025 that this is controversial, but all the other stuff isn't. And by the way, all these books, they're available on Amazon, on our website, but also lots of them are out there in the lobby. We just want to equip people to have the confidence in engaging on these issues. We want to make our culture stronger. We want to make the church stronger, because evil flourishes when the church is silent about abortion, when the church is silent about injustice, and we can't give evil that space to flourish. And so I think of my life and why I'm passionate about this, because oftentimes people will say, especially I've spoken in all kinds of colleges, Harvard, Princeton, University, Notre Dame, USC, here in Texas, a number of colleges, and I'm asked, well, I could say that, I'm asked or I'm challenged, you're a guy, why do you care about abortion? Well, one, I care about abortion because I'm human, and two, because it's an injustice against the innocent. It's an injustice against mothers. It's an injustice against fathers. And in my family, many of us, people say that we should have been aborted because we're the exceptions cases. And people think, well, life has to be this particular way, especially with social media. Everything's filtered. You know, everything is not that perfect, people. It's not that perfect. And now with AI, it's even worse. But life is never picture perfect. And that's what makes it so beautiful.
Life is never picture perfect. Human beings come in all different shapes, sizes, colors, and abilities. No matter how much we plan, no matter how much we think we're prepared, the unplanned happens all the time. It's how we respond to the unexpected that shows our true humanity. But many do not see the value of every human life. Too many are willing to discard those who don't fit the picture of perfection. Abortion destroys the chance to love and to be loved. We never know what will fill the frames of our lives, or how empty those frames can be when we allow exceptions.
Every life is a gift.
Every life is a gift. Can I get an amen? Children are a blessing. The world doesn't see it that way. The world sees children as a burden. I thank God that my parents didn't see us as burdens. They didn't see, for instance, how we came to be and didn't fixate on that. They focused on who we were meant to be. And people will often ask, well, what inspired your parents to adopt? And sometimes you kind of hear the tone of the voice. It's more like, what possessed your parents to adopt 10 children? They already had 3 children. They're good. Well, 2 things, love and brokenness. In fact, this is the first version of the Bomberger family, Bomberger 1.0. My parents, Andrea and Henry Bomberger, and my 3 older siblings, the first ones. I like to call them the homemade ones until I come up with a better label. But they're the homemade ones. But my mom knew when she was 5 years old that this would not be the end of this picture frame. This wouldn't be the totality of that picture frame. My mom went into a children's home for a year, kind of like an orphanage, because her father was an alcoholic, her parents were separating. And a 5-year-old's heart crushed because she was separated from her mom and her dad, found God's plan in all that tragedy. In fact, that's where she got the heart for adoption. There was another little girl there who had physical disabilities. No one came to visit her. At least my mom had her parents to visit her, and they visited her separately, but no one came to visit that little girl. So I love kids ministry because we cannot underestimate the way that children receive and perceive the world around them. They're not just future leaders, they are leaders today. And it was that experience that changed my mom's heart. She remembers getting down on her knees, asking Jesus into her heart, and also asking God to help her be a mommy to those who didn't have one. So that's where the love and the heart for adoption began. And this was actually the first child adopted. Really cute baby, right? Okay, it's me. Anyway, it was the first moment my mom was able to hold me. I was 6 weeks old. In fact, I was looking through my paperwork just a couple years ago and didn't even realize I was actually adopted on Juneteenth, which I think is a pretty significant date. Thank you, Texas, for Juneteenth, by the way. But this was the moment my mom was able to first adopt me. But her father had been involved with the first 5 Bombergers, and she had constantly tried to reach out to him because she knew that his only way to experience healing and wholeness was through Jesus. So she never gave up on him. But the moment they talked about adopting me, she realized his brokenness went even deeper. He was insanely racist and said, if you bring, and I'm cleaning up the language, but if you bring that black child into your home, you're gonna ruin your family, and I don't want anything to do with you. The moment my parents adopted me, he had nothing to do with us the rest of our lives. My mom literally had to lose a father in order to gain a son. And I will say, thank you, Mom and Dad, because you chose well. You chose me. Thank you. It is. Adoption in both the natural and the supernatural unleashes purpose. Self-sacrifice, which our culture doesn't quite understand. Our culture understands sacrifice, meaning the sacrifice of others. But self-sacrifice unleashes purpose. My dad was the most amazing man that I've ever known. This was, I think, my first picture with him. I was 1. The first picture that I have of him. He was, man, the most amazing. He loved to laugh. I mean, he loved Jesus. He loved people. Everybody loved my dad. People loved my parents. He was the same man at home as he was outside of the home, just a man of integrity and faith. And he loved us like crazy, which is why in our book, He Is He, we kind of illustrated that photo in a part of the book that said, he's a son, he's a brother, he's a father, not a mother. You know, he is he. There's also a tribute in the back of the book to my dad, but he is the reason why I love Jesus. He's the reason why I love being a husband, why I love being a father. And losing him during COVID was probably the hardest thing I've ever experienced in my life. COVID was the worst time, I'm sure, in all of our lives. But the headstone has this verse that my mom had engraved, which the verse applies to both my mom and my dad. They were a team. They're the ones who helped unleash purpose in all of our lives, whether biological or adopted children. And it says here, 1 Corinthians 16, 13, 14, it says, be on guard, stand firm in the faith. How much we need that in our culture that wants everybody, particularly Christians, to cave. Stand firm in the faith, be courageous, be strong, and do everything with love. That's not easy. I had 12 siblings. Now, I know I was the most lovable in the family, but and maybe some of you are like the lovable one in the family, but it's not easy to do everything with love. That's why I'm just honored to be able to be here to speak for her, because that's what they do. That's what my parents did, and it changes everything. The whole unwanted label, which is branded on people like me because we were unplanned, it's just such a lie. I love the title of this old article. The journalist understood adoption in our family. It says here, unwanted children find they're wanted. There's no such thing as unwanted ultimately. Maybe unwanted by a biological parent or parents, but we are all wanted by someone. Everyone's wanted by someone. And as I mentioned, I was the favorite in the family. I'm the one with the collared, checkered collar there. I was a handful. How many of you are handfuls in your family? No, don't raise your hand. If you have children who are the bullheaded, strong-willed, whatever, and you feel like that stuff's gonna kill you, I would just encourage you, wait for about 25, 30 years, and it will turn into something good. Maybe. So here's my whole family, all 15 of us, and I grew up on a farm, and we had 1.5 bathrooms. And dinner time, if you didn't eat fast, forget about seconds, no such thing. But this was the family that I grew up in. I loved it. You can see we obviously don't look alike. We're white and black, Native American, Vietnamese, mixed, able, disabled, some adopted as babies, some adopted as toddlers, some adopted as teens out of the foster care system, all loved like crazy. And there are a lot of things you learn besides the eating fast so you can get a meal. But another important lesson that we learned is that our parents never told us to pretend that we didn't see color. I know people mean well when they say that, but they wanted us to see color. God created color for us to enjoy and to celebrate, but never to separate ourselves by it. And we were this walking testament to how God created us all. Acts 17:26, from one blood. We're one human race. And I thank God that my parents didn't listen to the naysayers who said things like, well, how are you gonna love somebody who's disabled? How are you gonna love someone who doesn't look like you? I didn't realize you had to be the same color to love somebody else. And they loved us all like crazy, and they wanted us. I wanna show you now a larger picture of what supposedly unwanted looks like. It's my brothers, my sisters, their spouses, their children, and just one extended family member. There's a 100-year-old grandma in the middle of the picture. She just celebrated her 100th birthday last May, and she is still, I don't know if you've ever seen that SNL thing where it's like, I'm 50, that is my grandma. And so here is what supposedly unwanted looks like. That is 64 strong. This picture was taken 9 years ago, and there are actually 24 more human beings who could be put into this picture frame through new marriages, new births, new adoption. I have siblings who are adoptive parents, and now have nephews and nieces who are adoptive parents. So that legacy of love of my dad, by the way, he died on the anniversary of Roe v. Wade. The most pro-life man I've ever known. And to see this legacy of love continuing, it's awesome. This picture is possible because of my parents and their love of God. They didn't have a lot of money, but they had a lot of faith and a lot of love. This picture is possible too because of courageous birth parents. Women mostly, because it was mostly women who had to make those decisions in these cases. Women who chose to be stronger than their circumstances. The same kind of women who go through the doors for her and need somebody to speak hope into their situation. And I just believe that someone spoke hope into my birth mom's life. I've never met her, but for years I tried to figure out, how can I thank my birth mom? What can I say to her just to show my gratitude? And so as a creative, I wrote these lyrics and sang these lyrics, and I thought, even if I never meet her face to face, I just want her to know. Maybe she'll see this online. So I showed all the things I've been able to become in my life by the grace of God and because of her singular decision. I see a lot of young people here, and you don't think about the power of a single decision and how it will have reverberations for generations, but they do. And my birth mom never could have imagined the beautiful reverberations that single decision would make. And so this is just a tribute video to her courage.
You couldn't see what I would be. It wasn't part of your plan. Stronger than your circumstance, you gave my life a chance, touching the future before it began. You're the reason I am here. I know deep down in my soul, my life has purpose. I know deep down in my soul, my life has purpose.
That's my story. I am the 1% that use 100% of the time to justify abortion. But look, Satan comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Some of you may know what I'm talking about. You may be in a battle right now. Don't let him win. He tried to kill me in the womb, tried to have abortion kill me, but God delivered me. In my 20s, I suffered from severe depression, and that tried to kill me, but God delivered me. During COVID, I was hospitalized for 8 days with bilateral blood clots. That could have killed me, but God delivered me. And last year at this time, I was diagnosed with cancer, and God delivered me. I had been in remission now for 6 months. So, God is a God of life, and we fight not against people, not against principalities, but we're fighting a spiritual realm. And so when I talk about Planned Parenthood, for instance, I'm talking about something much deeper. The Satan who wants to steal, kill, and destroy. We still need people who are in that abortion industry to be freed as well, and we need to pray for them. But just to give you a little background on Planned Parenthood, they actually understood what abortion did back in 1939. This is an old brochure when they used to be called the Birth Control Federation of America. And you can see here in the middle panel, it says what we all know to be true. Abortion kills life after it has begun. They knew this in 1939, but they don't know this in 2025. And look at their first slogan on the third panel at the bottom. Every child, a wanted child. See, the whole wanted thing is their DNA. If you're unplanned, you're going to be unwanted and unloved. And it's untrue. It's a lie from the pit of hell. And yet, even Christians fall into that trap. Oh, well, yeah, if that's an unwanted child, no one wants to grow up unwanted. No one's better off dead. We are all better off loved. Amen? And so you got Planned Parenthood talking about how abortion is health care. We've heard this throughout COVID. It's essential care. Abortion is health care. Abortion is health care. Well, if abortion is health care, then I just got to say this. Then I guess slavery was job care. Right? If you're going to use euphemisms that are meaningless, why not? And then they say here on X, abortion is love. Love of what? Love of promoting fear? Love of profiting from people's pain? Love of exploitation? Love of the destruction of innocent human life? There are forces out there that want to shut down places like For Her. They call them fake clinics, which I find interesting because Planned Parenthood says, for instance, I don't know if I can say this in church, that your body parts don't determine whether you're a girl or a boy. Yes, they do. So they're the fake clinic. But they want to shut down places like For Her. Why is that? Because they know that there's life there. And they don't profit from anybody's decision. Whatever the decision is, they don't profit from it. Let me play a clip from a senator who wants to shut down places like For Her.
In Massachusetts right now, those crisis pregnancy centers that are there to fool people who are looking for pregnancy termination help outnumber true abortion clinics by 3 to 1. We need to shut them down here in Massachusetts, and we need to shut them down all around the country. You should not be able to torture a pregnant person like that.
Okay, first of all, Senator, pregnant people. What's that other word we use for pregnant people? Women. Women. Don't say pregnant people. Don't say birthing person. Don't say some of the other ridiculous euphemisms for them. Women. Women are the only ones who can conceive and carry life, and women are made of some of the strongest stuff on earth. Can I get an amen? They are beautifully and biologically different. Hey guys, we are great too. Can we get a hand clap for some men in here? Yes. But we cannot and would not give birth because we're not wired that way. The ridiculousness. And the torture she's talking about is the care and compassion that everyone who goes through their doors, every woman, every man, every child born and unborn, it's the love that they get. It's the care, it's the resources. It's why there were 1,033 clients who visited For Her last year. There were 324 ultrasounds. You know what I think another word for ultrasound can simply just be truth, because it's exactly what it shows you. And it's why the other side fights so hard to prevent women from seeing the ultrasound. Spiritual discussions, 271. STI tests, 231. Life decisions, every one of these roses. It's amazing when you take something from the abstract and you make it tangible, because these are beautiful reverberations that will last for generations and generations. And that starts with the love and compassion and the care at For Her Women's Medical Services. Don't listen to the naysayers, the people who are like, oh, abortion bans, because Texas, thank you for banning the violence of abortion. Hand clap there, because you guys are leading the nation. You're leading the nation in how to care for mothers, fathers, and children, born and unborn. And all these people talk about abortion bans kill, abortion bans kill. That's about as ridiculous as saying smoking bans kill. No, the smoking kills. The abortion kills. And we just need to live in a culture that embraces life at every turn. In fact, we have a fatherlessness epidemic, and that's why for years and years we have focused on fatherhood. Because we believe this, we're stronger than our circumstances, women and men. We have a fatherlessness epidemic. 40% of children born into homes without fathers. People trying to say that men don't matter. Guys always matter. Can I get an amen? Dads, you matter. And if you have spare time, mentor a young man who doesn't know what it means to be a man, doesn't know what it means to be a father, spend some time and pour it into him. I love talking about the possibility quotient. I love talking about what we're capable of. We don't even know what we're fully capable of. I mean, I'm gonna ask wives here. How many of your husbands and chores around the house and things like that have ever exceeded your expectations? Just by a show of hands. Wow, there are a lot of reluctant hands. What? Did any of you raise your hands? Okay, there's some. Maybe I shouldn't ask that. I don't want to cause marital strife. How many of you have ever done more than you thought you could do? You blew your own mind, you aced an exam, you did more at the workplace. Anybody? Okay. Pastor, we need self-esteem seminar here because we're overcomers, people. Let me give you examples. Oh, I just spoiled that one. You didn't see that. Let me give you examples of those born into circumstances that people say, well, I can understand abortion in that case. This young man was adopted and loved, and when he grew up, he said he wanted to go see his birth mom and say, thank you that I didn't end up an abortion. And that man is responsible for these devices, iPhones, iPads, MacBook Pros. The founder of Apple, Steve Jobs, was adopted and loved. He was not aborted. This next little girl had a really, really traumatic early beginning in her life. And I just needed to, because we live in a culture that wants to almost worship trauma. See, trauma should be a reference place, trauma should be a reference point, not a resting place. As Christians, we work to alleviate that trauma, and God transforms tragedy into triumph all the time. But this little girl ended up being adopted by her grandparents and loved like crazy. And you have seen a lot of her. In fact, she is a pretty popular gal. She is basically the world's most decorated gymnast, Simone Biles. Now, their achievements don't give them worth, but simply because they exist and they're fearfully and wonderfully made, they have equal and inherent worth. I will say this, we need to pray for Simone Biles because a few years ago actually, she announced on Instagram that she is pro-choice, pro-abortion, and that adoption is expensive, as she says here. Foster care system is broken and it's tough. Yeah, it's tough. Life is tough. But you speak more life into tough situations, not death. And so we need to pray for her. And this brings me to my last story with my wife, who knows the fear and the confusion that young women have faced, because that was her. As a teacher, as a person who walked away from God, her life kind of unraveled. She found herself walking away from a toxic relationship, only to find out 2 weeks later she was pregnant. Devastated by it. Felt like she let down her family, let down her students, and she went to the appointment for the ultrasound. The biological father wanted nothing to do with it. Went to the ultrasound. This is a later ultrasound, but the ultrasound that she went to was on Valentine's Day, and she saw the image of her baby girl, and she describes just the heart beating, looking like a blinking piece of rice. And God transformed her. She felt like she got broken out of that selfishness, and that God wrapped his heart around her and her heart around her babies. And she thought, even if I had to be a single mom the rest of my life, this girl was not going to know shame. She's not going to feel lesser than because her biological father didn't want her. But then along came this great guy. Okay, it was me. And God restored me, redeemed me so that I could be the husband that she needed. And this video is just the story of Bethany being stronger than her circumstances, the story of our family, and the story, I guess, that tells you the reason for the name of our organization. That is my baby girl. She's a sophomore at Liberty University studying to be a teacher like her mama. In fact, this is my whole family, the Bombergers, they call us the Bombs. My wife, Bethany, love of my life, my oldest son, Makai, my oldest daughter, Radiance, my youngest son, Justice, and my youngest daughter, Aaliyah. And I just want to encourage you today, there is a resource that's available to you, to people that you know right here. It's called For Her. And when you give to For Her today, you help make lives like mine and my family possible. Thank you, Trinity. God bless.